Hello and welcome to the magic of fishing. You join me on a beautiful May midweek evening after work, and I'm back on one of my favourite old venues in Surrey near Woking, and it's a magnificent 7-acre lake or old gravel pit called Cobbetts, and it belongs to Woking and District Angling Association, and I've been a member of this club for nearly quarter of a century now, 25 years, and I've got very fond associations with both the club and this lake because I joined it shortly after moving down south from my native Sheffield, just a young man seeking his fame and fortune, didn't know anyone, didn't know the area, and felt a little bit homesick, to be honest. But if you've read my book The Magic of Fishing, you'll know that I found solace and much more than that, joy, sheer joy and the magic of fishing by joining Woking and District and starting to discover their waters in my first spring and summer down in Surrey. So yeah, I've not fished this lake for quite some time, not since last season, and if you're watching my videos recently, first of all, thank you very much. You'll know that I've been trying lots of new waters with Farnham, and that's been really exciting, but sometimes you just get a hankering to revisit somewhere that's close to heart, close to home, and this is it for me. I even associate this venue with some meaningful moments in my life, and yeah, I've caught some great fish here too. My best carp knocking on 30 pounds, long time ago when I spent a brief period as a keen carp hunter before marriage, kids and work got in the way of that dream. But yeah, I've fished matches on here, I've met lovely people, fellow members over the years, and I'm lucky enough today, or honoured, to be fishing in Steve Carpenter's favourite old peg, the Office as it's known, and he's a very well known in the local area, a former member of the club, excellent angler, caught lots and lots of fish from this lake and other waters, loved his crusions. And I didn't know Steve well, but I met him on a few occasions and he was always really brilliant to have a chat to, and yeah, knew his stuff. So really excited to be here. Just got a couple of hours really till it goes dark. We're still in spring, and I'm going to fish in the margins on a float. I've brought a nice black bottom floats number from my mate Andy, and just going to fish it really simple, put a little bit of ground bait down the deep margins, which are 9-10 foot when it's full of water like it is after the wet winter we've had. But it's a really beautiful evening, scenic lake, and feel lucky to be here and be sharing it with you. So I'm just going to fish a little waggler over the top of the ground bait, a few red maggots, see what we can get. Lots of bird life around as always. We are in a suburban area, not far from a busy main road, but when the planes aren't flying over, it's a really peaceful place to fish. It's really full of water after the winter we've had. Half the platform is underwater and it's a bit soggy underfoot, but it means we've got a real easy, gentle lob to fish into 9 or 10 foot of water. And that's one of the things I always liked about this lake, was its deep margins and its even deeper mysterious depths out in the middle. It was quite unlike anywhere I'd fished up north, and it's a really natural venue. So for someone like me that likes working a bit to catch his fish and get the bites going, it's perfect. And it's really changed through the years as well. When I first started here, it was known for its crucian carp and had a few bigger fish in, and 1 or 2 tench, some bream, roach, everything you'd expect really in a mixed natural venue. And over the years there's probably been more carp added, big carp, some simmos that have got, I think, over 30 pound now. I remember them going in, which makes me feel like an old man talking about old stockings. And the crucians have, unfortunately, become rarer. Can't remember the last time I caught one from here, but I'm sure there are still a few in. Ditto the tench, and it's become a really good bream water actually. A lot of people come here on feeder, chuck out, wait for the tip to pull around with some real dustbin lids, but I've got to say I've always enjoyed fishing it in the margins, whether it's with a pole or just a simple match rod and waggler setup like this tonight. But I have fished it for carp, big carp, and I used to love fishing with a waggler as well, like I'd been taught growing up in Sheffield on some of the big natural venues there like Dam Flask, you know, spraying the caster out on the hemp and catching on the drop, getting the roach on the feed. I think people were quite surprised when they first saw me doing that, because it wasn't something that was done very often down here. But yeah, I absorbed southern ways like carp fishing, and it's given me a lot, this water, over the years. And it's funny how somewhere that originally felt quite alien, talking about Woking in general here, and some people get that reference to H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, which was written in Woking and set in Woking, near where I live. But yeah, somewhere that was completely new to me, and over the years it's obviously become my home, and places like this lake, Cobbetts, have been a massive part of that. And now they feel almost as ingrained in my fishing psyche as some of the northern venues that I grew up fishing, from the Trent to small farm pond that my granddad took me to as a young lad, to the River Derwent in Derbyshire, or many of the match venues that we revisit with Dronfield Woodhouse, the very small club that I still belong to some 45 years after joining, and return back up there a few times every summer to fish matches with some old friends. But yeah, this lake is definitely in that special batch of places, and I'm sure you've all got similar. Feel free to leave yours in the comments. I don't expect to be bagging up tonight, so if you've tuned in to watch me sack up, probably go for another one of the videos on the channel. It is a natural venue. It is very full and high, and the water's very clear. Still early in the year. I hope to get one or two, and it'd be nice to see the float go under, but it's more about returning to a special place on one of the first warm evenings of the year. First time I've managed to leave the house in a t-shirt, certainly after work, and yeah, have a little reminisce with you folks at home. It's a beautiful place to sit, even if I'm not catching. I'll probably barely have time to try them, but I've put a bit of ground bait and some micro pellets down on the left, just on the end of some branches, low hanging branches of a tree that overhangs the water. And I've also fed a bit down on the right, just by some reeds at the edge of the platform really. I always like to put a bit of pellet and ground bait in here because of the bream, because of the remaining chance of crusions or tench. That should try and hold any bigger fish that swim by and looking for food, but I'll just keep feeding little and often with maggots over the top, and if that brings me a small perch or a little roach, happy days. And when you've got a big open expanse of water like this, I love to chuck out a feeder as much as the next angler But I also like fishing in the margins. Just a little dip there. Something intimate about being on a big open water but just fishing off the rod tip. That was something Steve used to do a lot. I remember watching him as a young man and trying to learn. There goes the float again, a little dip, and it's gone. And he's missed it. That was on double maggot. Let's check the bait. Oh, that was an encouraging start, even if my reactions were a bit rusty. Somehow, whatever that was, I suspect a small perch or roach, has managed to nick both my maggots off the size 18. Fishing a light acolyte match rod, £3 mainline and £2, roughly £2 bottom. So quite light. Just got enough strength there. There's not many snags in terms of lily beds or dead trees in the water. You know, fishing hopefully strong enough to land a crucian or a bream if I was lucky enough to hook something a bit bigger, but really I want to enjoy any bites I'm going to get and any fish, no matter what size they are, on an evening like this. And that really is what the magic of fishing's all about for me. What inspired me to start writing the book probably in my late 30s or early 40s was the fact that although I'd had long periods as a matchman and a bit of a carper for 2 or 3 years brief period, it was really just going back to my childhood roots as an older man and fishing for bites, fishing for whatever might be out there, that really reignited my love affair with angling and got me back on the bank more than I'd fished in many years. So I still like to go for a big carp occasionally, and I love fishing matches, but nowadays I'm quite happy using those skills to just try and catch anything that swims, and now and again I might have a go for barbel or try for tench, or you've seen recently I had a brilliant evening on an estate lake in Hampshire for big bream, but many other occasions, especially when I'm tight for time, probably less than 2 hours left to fish this evening, and I'm just looking to see a float go under. It really is a still evening. It's like the proverbial mirror, the surface of the lake, although you can see down one end, which has probably had the little breeze we've had today, pushing down that way. Earlier this afternoon you can see all the seed heads, all the fluff on the surface. You can also see some first yellow flag iris appearing. I associated those with June up north, but even though we're in early May, they're already out down here. And they're a flower that I really associate with fishing as well. Can't beat seeing a float next to a reed bed down by your feet. That's how I grew up fishing as a little lad. But yeah, it's perfect conditions for watching a float, even if it's not perfect conditions for catching. It's slanting sun is right on that hand painted float tip and it looks glorious. There's something about feeding in the margins by hand. It keeps you busy even when the bites aren't prolific. It's not like being sat behind a quiver tip waiting for it to move around, but watching it motionless for minute after minute. And obviously you can keep busy with your feeder fishing as well, but something nice about just keeping that bait trickling in and hoping that something might spot it falling through the water and head over to investigate. And although you can't see the sunset from here, it does go down behind the trees to my right. You do get this lovely golden light across the lake. Always makes me think of Cobbetts whenever the light's like that on a summer evening. And I've even been lucky enough to fish this lake with my good mate Andy from up in Sheffield. We've fished together since we were teenagers, but obviously when I moved south that became a rarer occurrence, save for the summer months, and that was until we both realised, well, it's only 3 hours drive and potentially even quicker on the train. And once we'd got over the initial chaos of young kids, he's been down to see me 3 or 4 times now, and we enjoy annual mini festivals, fishing largely on the river because we both love our river fishing, but sometimes we've had a day on Cobbetts as well, and we've had some nice bream, had some good catches, and it is a place you're allowed to use keep nets if you fancy doing that, a little knock up with a mate or two. And yeah, we certainly enjoyed meeting up down south as well as back up in Sheffield. Just had another little indication under the tree as the light continues to fade. We've got one. Can't beat that. I was expecting a microscopic fry, but it's, well, I think the landing net's overkill, but it's a proper fish. Just goes to show what that change in light can do. And with a backdrop like that, who wouldn't be chuffed to get a nice roach like that? So let's get back under that tree while there's still light and see if there's any more. We've got another. This one is a bit of a tiddler. We've got some very noisy terns going overhead fighting. Not quite the same, but it's a bite. Let's go back out on single maggot. Sometimes that can bring you an extra fish or two. But look at that sky. What a backdrop. Little knock then straight away on the single maggot. And we're in again. It's that evening action. We'll risk winging this, but it's another species. And if you're watching this and thinking, I wouldn't mind giving that a go myself, maybe you've not been fishing for a while, kids, work, an illness, whatever it might be, I hope it's entertaining you, but I also hope it might inspire you to get back on the bank and give it a go. You really cannot beat spending time by water, whether it's on your own or with a mate or family member, maybe a fellow club member, if you fancy joining a local club and giving it a go. But it really is a special hobby or sport, especially on evenings like this. And talking of potential physical problems, shout out at this point to my mate Neil. He's had a hip hop and it's not been pleasant, the recovery so far from what I've heard. So Neil, thinking of you mate, get well soon and we'll get on the river come June or July. Well, that's shot under, and we're in again. It's another perch. It's another small fish, and it's another big smile on my face. I can actually just drop him at my feet. He's bristling in defiance. I'm sure he'll shoot off any second. There he goes. It's thick and fast now. Often the case as the light dies. And on this light gear, even these small perch can put a good bend in the rod. All fish welcome in the magic of fishing. And just listen to that bird song while I keep an eye on the float. Still in a t-shirt, probably got another half hour, 40 minutes, but may have to stop filming before I stop fishing, unfortunately, without faffing about with a lot of lights. As we get another smaller roach, only an ounce, but certainly picking up in terms of the number of bites as it's got darker. There's another roach. He's gone the wrong way. Not for long. Well, the light really is fading now, and with it come the bites and the fish. Nothing big yet, but I've got another 20 minutes and I wouldn't be at all surprised to catch something a bit bigger before it goes dark. I'm sorry to leave you here, but I've got to film this before it goes too dark without faffing about with a load of lighting gear. So if you're not already in the club, what are you waiting for? Subscribe button below for many more videos like this, and if you are already in the club, your support is much appreciated as always. A lot of love for you, and I really hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Let's see if we can get something before I leave, like that, and I'll see you again soon on the bank.